Welcome to Bridging the Bay, the podcast where we connect the people, ideas, and partnerships shaping the future of real estate and community across Tampa Bay. I'm your host, Quan Rimmer, and in every episode, we explore how leadership, innovation, community impact, and collaboration are influencing where and how we live. Recording live from the Fabre Framework Studio, because every property has a story, and how that story is told matters. Fabre Frameworks specializes in real estate photography that highlights what buyers need to see clearly and honestly. Learn more at FabreFrameworks.com. Today's episode is about something every community needs: hope. Every day throughout Tampa Bay, families face challenges that many of us never see: homelessness, food insecurity, financial hardship, and unexpected life crises. Circumstances that can quickly place a hardworking individual and their family into difficult situations. For more than 50 years, Metropolitan Ministries has been a beacon of hope for individuals and families during those challenges, providing not only immediate assistance, but also stability, support, and a pathway toward a brighter future. Joining us today is a USF graduate, Dr. Sarah Combs, President and CEO of Metropolitan Ministries. Together, we'll discuss the organization's mission, its impact throughout Tampa Bay, and how our community can continue working together to help neighbors in need. Dr. Combs, welcome to Bridging the Bay.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure to be here, and I look forward to our discussion.
Oh, yes. So, Dr. Combs, for listeners who may not be familiar, can you share the mission of Metropolitan Ministries and who you serve in our community?
Well, I think the mission is what I was so excited about when I first learned about the opportunity to become the CEO of Metropolitan Ministries. A lot of people don't know this story, but in 1972, Metropolitan Ministries was birthed from 13 churches that were all denominations came together and said, how do we create an organization that can really address homelessness, poverty, food insecurity? And through those relationships, through those community collaborations, Metropolitan Ministries was born.
Nice.
And our mission is to care for the homeless and those at risk of becoming homeless in our community through services that alleviate suffering, promote dignity, and instill self-sufficiency as an expression of the ongoing ministry of Jesus Christ. And who can't get behind that?
Right. Yes. So you came all the way from Colorado to the Bay. What inspired you to pursue this work, and what keeps you passionate about it today?
Well, I grew up as a farmer's daughter from a very small town in the very southwest corner of Colorado. And I grew up just really understanding how important hard work determination is. And what I learned was that, God was really calling me to represent those who didn't have a voice. So as I learned how important education was, I was able to get out of my small town, go and get my degree. And I just felt this love for nonprofit work. And that's really what led me to coming to Florida. My husband and I met him in college, and I said, okay, it's time for us to move from Colorado. And I took out a map and I said, okay, where are we going to move, East Coast or West? And he thought this was a game and said, I think we should move to the East Coast. And I said, okay, well, where in the East Coast? And he said, well, Florida's nice. And I said, well, I've never been to Florida, but it sounds lovely. And he works for USAA. And so he said, well, Tampa has a pretty big office that I could just transition my job. And I said, well, that's great. And he said, but you don't have a job. And I said, oh, don't worry about me. I'll find a job. And literally a month later, had the house packed up, moving cars there. And we came to Tampa not knowing a soul, and really started a beautiful journey here, created an amazing family, and have been able to work for several nonprofits here that just mean the world to me.
Nice. I like that. I love that voice of the voiceless that you are. Yes. At its core, Metropolitan Ministries is about meeting people where they are and helping them navigate some of the life's most difficult circumstances. And that work creates countless stories of hope and transformation throughout our community. What is one story that really captures the impact of Metropolitan Ministries in Tampa Bay?
That's a really good question. So I'm a new CEO here. I'm the third CEO in 54 years. So I
Yes.
mean that talks a lot about the longevity
Yes.
and the incredible organization and the leaders who have came before me. So I'm about 8 months old in my role now, and I'm coming from being the CEO at University Area CDC, where I was worked in the university area community for 15 years. And as I was exploring Metropolitan Ministries and seeing if God had called me to this incredible new organization, I learned something that was just aligned with me so well. And it was something that I felt like, this is incredible. I want to be a part of it. And I learned that after our families go through our programs and services, we follow up with them 18 months later. And 97% of our families do not return to homelessness. And when I
Nice.
found out that statistic, I had to fact check it because I said 97%. That's incredible. That
Yes.
seems too good to be true. But what they're doing is working, and what we're doing is working. And that was the story that I learned, I heard about, and it really made me feel like this is where I'm meant to be. And
Yes.
I want to keep doing that work.
Yes. That is great. It's 97%.
97%.
Wow. So, what are some of the biggest needs you're seeing right now for families in our community?
I think that it feels like we're just one disaster or one crisis after another every year, coming off the hurricanes, and then we had the government shutdown and SNAP benefits were delayed. So, Metropolitan Ministries really steps into the gap when it's needed the most. And I think that's what the community really resonates with so much. One of the things that we've learned in the last just year is we've seen a huge increase in seniors needing services. And I think it's really interesting, to really look at that senior population. They're calling it the gray wave, and why they're calling it the gray wave, and what's kind of unique about that is seniors don't signal early. So when we think about prevention services, they're not raising their hand and signaling that they need assistance. And I think it's because of their generation. It's like, I'm going to pull myself up by my bootstraps. I don't need help. So we often find out from them that they are on the brink of homelessness, but it's too late because they're not signaling early. So one of the things that we're doing is really looking at how do we assist seniors? How do we look at housing for seniors, programs and services that we can really connect with and make sure that those seniors aren't on the street. So that's an area that has been really challenging for us this year, and we've been really digging into that data.
Okay. The need for services continues to evolve, as you just discussed. How you now notice that it's seniors.
Yeah.
One of those things that stands out about Metropolitan Ministries is the ability to respond, adapt, and grow alongside the community it serves. And so I want to know about your Bridge Builders 2026 luncheon. It was described as a record-breaking success. What does an event like that mean for the families you serve, and how does it help fuel your mission year-round?
Well, this event is incredible. This year we had over 1,100 individuals. And really kind of the purpose of the event is, of course, bringing people together to learn about the important work that Metropolitan Ministries is doing. But specifically, we're raising awareness and money for our teens and our children in our homeless programs and our prevention services programs. So the purpose of Bridge Builders is really building that bridge. How do we build a bridge to ensure that our families and our children are able to get out of the situation that they're in? So having an event where we have over 1,100 people that can come together and learn about the incredible work that we're doing in our partnerships as well, to be able to support that, to figure out how do I lean into that work? Where is my role in all of this? I just don't think that there's a better event that we could have that really serves that purpose. And it was incredible to experience it for the first time myself.
Yes. While major events help generate resources and awareness, some of the most impactful work happens when unexpected, challenges arise and families need immediate support. You kind of touched about when you stepped up. You stepped into a situation that occurred. So like when Metropolitan Ministries stepped up to support the unpaid TSA workers during the federal shutdown. Can you talk about how quickly your team mobilized during that unexpected crisis and what that says about your role in the Bay?
I think For me, that is what makes Metropolitan Ministry so special, is being able to meet the need where it is and really be able to fill that gap. And so, one of the things that I just praised our team, we have an incredible change agents that work for Metropolitan Ministries. And when something arises that wasn't planned, right, often unplanned, but it's our community really needing help, we rise to the occasion, we figure it out, we problem solve. And so when we learned that TSA workers weren't getting their paychecks and they were still trying to get to work, but they couldn't because their gas tanks were empty, we said, we've got to do something. We've got to help. And so that's where we step into the gap and really provide opportunities for them. And that look like gift cards. But another crisis could look like something else. We learned that we had a 31% increase in seniors needing services, needing specific food because of the reduce in benefits and whatnot, the government shutdown. We opened up our pantries and allowed them to shop for food, opposed to just saying, oh, we don't have anything. You could come once a month. We open it up. So just really being able to meet the need where it is and learn about how do we do it with the generosity of our community. And I think that's why Metropolitan Ministries, they often say that it's the community's Metropolitan Ministries. And that really feels that way because the community steps in ways that I am just like flabbergasted at sometimes. There's a need. We put it out to the community and there's a solution. And so I think that's a testament to how Metropolitan Ministries was created and those strong partnerships and that strong community impact that we have here in Tampa Bay.
Yes, those moments often highlight just how important organizations like yours are and how you've become the overall health and stability of our region. As demand continues to grow across the Bay, and beyond, what does the future look like for expanding services and community partnerships?
That's a wonderful question. It's challenging out there. You think about we're in a affordable housing crisis.
Yes.
You think about the cost of gas, the increased cost of food. I mean, our families are struggling. And I think oftentimes we think of, the population that we're serving as they're homeless, they're on the streets, or they have some sort of an addiction. And of course, there are those situations, but a lot of our families, right, are that Alice population where they're asset limited, income constraint, and they're just, unfortunately, if there's a setback, maybe their car broke down or they had a health issue that they had to address. And so once something like that happens, they don't have that savings. And so one incident away puts them onto the streets. And so really learning about the challenges that are in our community and how difficult it is for our families right now, I think is one of the things that Metropolitan Ministries is really leaning into more. And for me, it starts with housing. How do you address the needs of someone, of a family, until you can really provide them an opportunity to have a place where they can lay their head at night? So I've been a proponent for housing for 25 years. I've built housing of all kinds, innovative housing, also, single-family housing, multifamily housing, LIHTC deals. I mean, you name it, I've explored it, or I've partnered to build it. And I think that specifically in Tampa Bay and in the counties that we're working on, we have to address housing. And that's something I'm very passionate about. And we're going to be working towards the next few years.
Good. When people hear about the incredible work being done, one of the first questions they often ask is, how can I help? For someone listening who wants to give back but doesn't know where to start, what are the easiest ways they can get involved?
Oh, I think the best way to get involved is to figure out, where is your passion? Like, where do you want to lean into? Whether it's time, talent, or treasure. The best volunteers and the best ones that are able to give back are doing so in a way that they feel passionate about. And so I always say, come and learn about all the things that we're doing. We're doing so much more, I promise, than you think we are. There are so many programs and services that are happening. It's remarkable. But take that next step. And I would say to go to metrobin.org/volunteer to learn more. I mean, we'll bring you out to the campus where you can get a tour and learn about all the different ways to engage. And then find what speaks to you, because oftentimes there's a person on the other end of that is just waiting for you. And the impact that you can make on their life could be an impact that can change their future and the future of their children. So don't wait, get involved, and find out more.
I love that. What is a typical volunteer experience look like, and what do people usually walk away feeling afterwards?
Well, the beauty of Metropolitan Ministries is we have so many volunteer opportunities. So, volunteering with us could look like you're going to our warehouse and helping stock shelves because we get incredible food drives from different organizations, different groups, schools, you name it. It could also look like volunteering in our kitchen and being able to serve the clients that live in our homeless shelter. It could also look like helping with our children. You could be in our infant room and rock some babies. So we have a plethora of opportunities to volunteer. And we really want to find an area where it speaks to you and you almost feel like you're called to do it because that makes the best volunteers.
I like that. So individual volunteers make an incredible difference. But Metropolitan Ministries has become a destination for businesses and organizations looking to make a larger collective impact. You have 60 partners, 1,000 organizations you work with. How do those corporate and group volunteer efforts make a difference at scale?
Well, a good example I could use is our holiday tents. And before I started, I'd heard about the holiday tents, but really didn't understand the scope and the scale of it until I experienced it myself. And when I walked into this tent that was the size of a football field, I was just blown away. And when I learned the numbers that it takes, 20,000 volunteers, a lot of those volunteers are corporate, right? Then I learned that it takes 100,000 pounds of food, 60,000 toys. These are incredible numbers. And we have a tent now. We just opened a new tent in Pinellas this past year, which is exciting. And then obviously we have one in Tampa and one in Pasco and one in East Pasco as well. And so those corporate volunteers come together to be able to really help fill that need. And we couldn't do it alone. There'd be no way that our holiday tents, as well as just all the other opportunities for volunteering, could take place if we didn't have this generous community and these amazing corporate and business partners that say, yes, I'm going to bring my team and we're going to do it. And not only do they do that, they come back every year. And so we can rely on them. And that in turn saves us money that we don't have to hire staffing for that. So the more that we can put towards the mission, the more that we can really make sure that we're meeting families where they are, it only creates better stories, more impact, and more individuals served.
Yes. One of the themes we've touched on throughout our conversation is that solving community challenges requires partnerships, and no single organization can do it alone. And that makes me wonder, how can realtors that are deeply connected to their communities, how can they play a role in supporting organizations like yours?
Oh, that's a great question. And I would say there's a number of different ways outside of the traditional volunteering. Our realtor community, they know housing, right? And we just talked about that being one of the biggest barriers for our community specifically. And so one of the things I talk a lot about is, making that change at a policy level. We study and we study and we study. And what do the studies say? Build more housing,
Yes.
Build more affordable housing. And so I think we're good with the studies. We know what we need to do. We need to start building. But where do you get that funding from? So one of the things, I've advocated for years is to stop sweeping the Sadowski funds. And that's something that I think our realtor communities can stand behind, and they have stand behind. And so make sure that that funding is coming back to our communities where we can build affordable housing. And so if we could just have that message, if they could just focus on that and help us, that could be a huge impact that truly correlates to changing lives, because we'd be able to have places for families to go, to live, to feel safe at night.
Yes. Whether it's through volunteering, advocacy, fundraising, or awareness, meaningful partnerships often become the catalyst for lasting community impact. So what does a strong community partnership look like from your perspective?
Well, it needs to be mutually beneficial. One of the things I talk about a lot is place-based partnerships, place-based community development, where we go into the community that we're trying to serve. And oftentimes we do this, with no ill intent, but we go into a new area and we say, hey, we want to do this. We want to serve this. We want to achieve this, without really asking the partners who are already there, without asking the residents. And so that is so critically important, that we don't duplicate services, but we go into communities that are needing services, and we partner. We don't duplicate services, and we learn about the needs of the community. What are the needs of the community? What are the strengths and what are the weaknesses? And really applying a strength-based approach to that work, I think gets us so much further. It's not just about us, it's about we. When we come into partnership,
Yes.
it should be about we. How can we complement each other?
Yes.
And how do we make sure that we're, and I've said it, I think it's my third time, not duplicating services. I think it's valid to say that 3 times because there's so much work that's being duplicated. And I think we just have to change the way that we think about partnerships in a different way. And that's what we're doing at Metropolitan Ministries, is saying, hey, if we're going to go into a new community that needs us, let's really learn about the community. Who's in the community? Who's that community quarterback? And then how do we talk to the community to learn? Because every community is different. So you can't just take one program and drop it into a community until you really know the needs and the strengths and the weaknesses of the community. And it needs to be customized to fit that community, or it's just not going to work.
Agreed. We'll take a quick break and be right back with more of Bridging the Bay, recorded live from the Fabre Framework studio. Fabre Frameworks, your listings are a reflection of your brand. Fabre Frameworks helps realtors elevate both through consistent, professional real estate photography that builds trust with buyers and sellers alike. Learn more at FabreFrameworks.com. Dr. Combs, what are some of the warning signs that a family may be heading towards a crisis, and what resources are available before they even reach an emergency situation?
That's a really good question. I feel like we have, unfortunately, a lot of families in that situation. I would say, having that safety net where you have some emergency funding is so critically important. That's where we really kind of have learned that families are falling into homelessness because it's something like a car repair. It's a emergency room visit. It's something that they really couldn't have avoided. And it's because they didn't have that emergency fund, it's put them into where they're sleeping on, someone's couch. They're literally in a hotel, or they're doubling up with another family. And so we talk a lot about making sure that you have that emergency fund. And being able to really reach out to trusted partners and organizations that can help you do that, which is what Metropolitan Ministry does. So we want to work with families. We really want to focus on prevention. We don't want to wait until families are homeless. And so that's why some of our programs that we have, Pathways, Neighbor Hope, we're going into the communities, we're going into schools, and we're working with those that know those families best and saying, how do we get ahead of this? How do we make sure that we're really providing the supports that are needed now, so we don't see these families that are falling into homelessness? Because once they do, their whole world, turns upside down. So prevention, prevention, prevention.
Yes. As our region continues to grow, what are some community-wide solutions you believe will be necessary to address homelessness and housing insecurity over the next decade?
That's a great question. I think cost of living is a challenge, and making sure that we have a livable wage. That's number one. If our families are not able to make a livable wage, then they're not able to pay for rent, food, gas, all of those different pieces. I also think that we need some policy reform around housing. We're in an attainable housing crisis. Families just can't afford to do it. And we're talking about, our families who are low in income. We're hearing stories of those that maybe are making a better wage. Like I just heard last week, I was in a meeting in St. Pete, and I was learning about this Young Lawyer Association. And one of their biggest issues was their first-time lawyers weren't able to live in Pinellas. They were driving an hour and a half each way because they couldn't afford housing. We're talking about someone who has a law degree, right? So, I mean, if you think about that, and I think the only benefit to that is that now it's affecting businesses because the workforce, they're having challenges with workforce. So now more people are coming to the table to talk about that issue. And I really think that we have to really make a change at the policy level.
Yes. How important is affordable housing to the overall health and economic success of our communities?
So critical. Housing is healthcare. Housing is safety. It's security. All of those different pieces. And so I always talk about how if you cannot stabilize a family and put a roof over their head where they feel safe, you can't address all the other challenges that they might have. And so at Metropolitan Ministries, that is why our model works so well. When families are able to come into our family shelter, our homeless shelter, they're able to take a breath, right? We have a safe place for them to land. And then we allow them to have all of those holistic supports that circle them. So they're able to have a safe place to live. And then we start addressing all the other things around them. Now that they can concentrate on really, figuring out what is their plan moving forward, we have a family grill where they're able to get meals. We have childcare, whether it's a 1-month-old to a teen. We have a teen program as well. We also have a school across the street in Tampa called the Patricia Sullivan Partnership School, which is an A school. 80% of our kids that are in our homeless shelter are attending that school. And so when people tell me that homeless kids can't learn, that shows you that is not true. You have to give them access and opportunity. We also have counseling programs and services. We have workforce and education programs. So really allowing the families to come in, have a safe place to lay their head at night, and then we start focusing on all the other pieces. And the idea is to create a holistic plan along with them in order to make sure that they have all the supports that they need. When they transition out, 97% of them are not returning to homeless, and we think that's a recipe for success.
It is. What role does compassion and empathy play in all of this when we're serving these individuals and families experiencing this crisis?
Hope is such a strong word. It's a positive expectation that something good is going to happen. And I think making sure that regardless of who is walking through our doors, that we're treating them with dignity and respect and compassion and care. That's what we're called to do. And those are the morals and values that Metropolitan Ministries was based on. And making sure that we're doing so in a way that families feel comfortable in opening up, right? Most of our families are experiencing trauma that we could never even imagine. About 80% of our families who are living at our shelter have seen some sort of domestic violence. And so being able to provide that safe space starts with compassion and care and hope.
Yes. What do you think future generations, when they look back at this period in our community's history, what do you hope they will say about the Bay coming together to support its most vulnerable neighbors?
I would like to say that we've came together in a way where we've created innovative solutions to some of the challenging problems that we have. And we've done so in a way that can serve as a replica for other communities that are experiencing similar things. And that means us addressing housing, education, workforce, and transportation. And so I really feel like now with the use of AI as well, we have opportunities to do things that we've never done before and look at challenges and issues that are complex in nature and find real solutions that maybe haven't been tried before. And I think it's okay to experiment on those things. I think oftentimes we're so worried about failure that we don't give it a shot and we miss real opportunities. One of the things I talk to my staff about a lot is you can't succeed if you don't fail, right? And positioning yourself in an opportunity, if you're going to fail, you fail forward and you learn from it. And so I really challenge my team to think outside the box, like come up with innovative solutions to some of these challenges, because oftentimes those are the ones that work and are really going to help us with creating opportunities and pathways out of poverty.
Yes. As we begin to wrap up, I would like to spend a few minutes addressing some of the misconceptions that often surround poverty, homelessness, and housing insecurity. If you could change one misconception people have about the families of Metropolitan Ministry serves, what would it be?
That they're not hardworking. Oftentimes our families are working 2 jobs and they just can't keep up with it. And so these families are hardworking, they're loving parents, and they've just fallen on hard times. And so I often think that, this homelessness has the stigma of individuals or families that don't want to have a job, or they're not hardworking, they're not good parents. That is so far from the truth. And what I found is if we give these individuals an opportunity and access, they far exceed our expectations. And we put them on a trajectory where their children won't ever have to experience that again because we've helped that family. And that's what I'd like to change.
Yes. What is one thing you wish more people understood about homelessness and housing insecurity?
I wish they knew that it's going to take all of us to be able to change the trajectory that we're in for homelessness and also for housing. We've got to think more creatively. We've got to think innovatively. We've got to make sure that we're doing it in a way that's holistic in nature and also that makes a difference. Studies keep telling us we don't have enough affordable housing. Solution, build more
Build more
housing.
houses.
And so figuring out how do we create innovative capital stacks in order to make that work, and thinking outside of the box in doing so. Thinking about light tech deals, thinking about land banking, thinking about modular homes or tiny homes. I mean, we've got to think innovatively about these things. Then we also have to think about the policies that prevent us from doing these things, thinking about the land codes. How do we challenge some of those to ensure that we give ourselves an opportunity to solve some of the challenges that we have? I think that's really important.
Yes. The more people understand these challenges, the more equipped they are to become part of the solution. If someone takes one action after listening to this episode, what would you want it to be?
That they feel compelled to be a part of the solution, that they feel compelled to be able to help. And that might look different for everyone, right? Time, treasure, or talent. But I say lean into that calling, lean into where you can provide opportunities and make a change right in your community. And that can start by going to metromin.org/volunteer and learn about the incredible opportunities that we have. And you can learn where your passion is really calling you. And that's where we want you to be.
Yes. And finally, despite the challenges we discussed today, your organization gets to see resilience, generosity, and transformation every day. Looking ahead 5 to 10 years, what impact do you hope Metropolitan Ministries has on the Bay?
5 years, I would like for us to have built at least 300 units.
Okay.
Put a number on it. At
Okay.
least 300 units specifically for either our low-income families or our seniors, because that's the biggest need right now. I would like us to be we're currently in 3 counties, Pinellas, Pasco, and Hillsborough. I'd like us to be in 5 counties in whatever state that looks like. And I'd like us to be able to be really feeling like we've been able to extend our arms and welcome to more families to the services. Because at the end of the day, Metropolitan Ministries' mission is to be able to help more families, right? More children, more families, more individuals. And at the end of the day, that's the most important piece. How do we do that? How do we provide that hope for individuals who feel like they have none? How do we provide access and opportunity for those who feel like they're marginalized? That's our role. That's our job. And so in 5 years, I'd like to look back and say, wow, look what we've accomplished. We've not only provided access and opportunity for these families, but we've broken the cycle of poverty. We've provided new opportunities and pathways for the children in these families to not experience maybe what their parents have been through. And so that's what I'd like in 5 years.
I love that. I like that. Give them the website one more time.
metromin.org.
Perfect. Well, that brings us to the close of today's episode of Bridging the Bay, recorded live from the Fabre Framework studio. Great visuals don't just attract attention, they set expectations. That's the Fabre Framework's difference, and why real estate professionals across the region trust their photography. Learn more at FabreFrameworks.com. A huge thank you to Dr. Combs for joining us today and for the extraordinary work Metropolitan Ministries is providing hope, stability, and opportunity to families throughout our community. And to our listeners, today's conversation is a reminder that behind every statistic is a person, a family, or a child facing challenges that many of us may never see. It also reminds us that lasting change happens when communities come together to support one another during life's most difficult moments. Whether through volunteering, donating, advocating, or simply raising awareness, each of us has the ability to make a meaningful difference in the lives of our neighbors. Metropolitan Ministries demonstrates every day that hope is most powerful when it's paired with action. If you found value in this episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this episode of Bridging the Bay as we continue connecting you with the voices of organizations and leaders shaping the future of Tampa Bay. Until next time, I'm Quan Rimmer, and remember, when we bridge the Bay, we bring the community closer.